Boards and booze, booze and boards, drinks and beers, fight some hordes. Drank too much, forgot our swords, ran back home, filled our gourds, got drunk again, sang some chords. Boards and booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb. Hi everyone, Booze and Boards, Mickey and Jeb.
Back again.
We are doing an episode on a game Mickey kickstarted. Well, actually, I don't know. I think you said that you missed the Kickstarter but emailed them after. Was that this game or not?
Yes.
I think so, because...
I did that with 2 games.
Oh, okay. Look at this guy. He's special enough to get games after they've been kickstarted. Anyhow, show him the box, Mickey.
Heldentaufe, because I can't speak German, so I have no idea if that's right. But, anyways, so, let's see. It's a game by Simon Junker, Casper Wyss, W-Y-S-S, and Bastian Cullen, I guess. And again, I'm sure we butchered names, but yes, I'm sure that the people that we're doing this review don't really care, and they can, if they want to tag us and correct us, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a 2 to 5 player. It says 14 up. That's way off. And 60 minutes. Don't you think?
Yes, it is. It is.
Alright. I don't know why it says 14 up. That's crazy. There's, as long as somebody's there explaining the rules, there's no reason why somebody younger can't play this game.
Yeah. So we had a chance to play me versus Mickey pretty much. Yeah. We got to play that, and we both really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought. I didn't even realize it was this fun.
Yeah, this was another one of my classic. I absolutely love the art, read the description, sounded like my type of game, and went ahead and gave it a shot. They were more than willing to let me back at the Kickstarter price, even though it was closed. I think it was at the pre-Kickstarter price. Yeah, it was. But anyways, it doesn't matter. They did. They let me. The gist of the game is you're all explorers.
Yep.
It's a hex type of game. You reveal tiles. You move around. You're trying to equip your unique hero. You boost them up so that you can get ready to go into the underworld to battle monsters.
Yep.
Because battling monsters is the main way, not the only way, that you get victory points. Object of the game is to get a set amount of victory points dependent on the number of players and return to base camp. If you do that before somebody else, you win the game.
And you can also attack other players.
You can attack other players.
So it's not just limited to monsters.
Yeah.
There's lots of cool stuff in it.
There's a ton of cool stuff, and the art on it's fantastic. The components are fantastic. Without getting into too much. Because we're gonna go over the components in just a minute.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get over during review time. We'll tell you all the things we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. But just as an overview, it's well put together. Even down to the insert, they did a good job. So, so we'll be back in a minute. We'll go over components as normal. After components, we'll go over setup, and then we'll do a full gameplay.
Yep.
I don't know who will be playing with us this time.
Try to get more than 2, I think.
Yeah, we'll try to at least get Haley. Maybe Nina. I don't know if we can convince her to play this one or not. It's not too difficult, but sometimes when she sees lots of pieces, she goes, too many pieces.
Or you can get Michael, because you can.
Oh yeah, Michael likes to kill other people. So, anyways, that's what's coming up in this episode, and hopefully I said it right, and hopefully you can get a good look at that box because it's really cool. Or maybe Jeb can do a close up. I don't know. But anyways, off to components.
Yep. All right. So as you can see, everything except one board is in front of you for the components of Heldentaufe. Let's start with what everything is. So we'll start with the tiles that are used in the game. As you can see, there's a good variety of them.
So the tiles in the game, here are the tiles in the game. And these are all going to be stacked together, except this is the tile, this is the camp tile that you start the game in the center of your table with all the characters on that tile. After that, you're going to randomly find or flip over the tiles and place them around the board. But you're going to have meadow tiles, which are the grassy ones. Then you're going to have forest tiles, which are the dark green, look like trees. And then I believe this is an apple orchard. Okay. Then we have a fish pond. We have a mushroom farm. We have the camp, which I just said. These are your portal tiles to get into the underworld. This is, help me out, Jeb.
The circus. I don't remember the exact name of it.
Hold on. Okay, so to continue, I called this the underworld. It's the netherworld. This is the trade merchant tile. This is the smith tile. And this is the laboratory tile. We'll get into more of what they do, but you also have a cheat sheet to remember what to do also.
Alright, after the tiles, let's talk about the hero board, which is up there.
Alright, these are all the hero boards. There are 5 of them. One important note about the hero board is they all have something unique. All the characters do something slightly different. But in general, they all have the same component. Something just might be changed on it. So this is your health up here where the hearts are. This is your backpack area where you can carry things, or rucksack I think they call it in this game. And these are your stats. So you have whatever's over here are your beginning stats. And then when you acquire items, you can build those up. So for instance, this is the movement space. He has a 4 move when he starts out. This is for his jewelry / rings, which he doesn't have any bonus on there yet. And this is his weapon or attack space. And right now he rolls 1 die. So that's how that guy works.
And on the left is his name.
Yeah, I can't read his name upside down in there. Probably can't pronounce it anyways.
I think, yeah.
So, anyways, you just, pick whatever character you're going to be.
Next up are the dice. We'll just do that really quick.
Okay.
There's 3 different dice.
Yep, so you have 2 different colored D6, so you can decide what you want to use, which player will use that, which the other color die will be the player rolling for the monster when you do attacks, or if you attack another character, which you are allowed to do. The point is they're 2 different colors so they don't get mixed up. The last die with the symbols on it is to roll for treasures at various times during the game.
To the right, there are a bunch of standees. There are hero standees. There's 5 of them for each of the 5 heroes.
When you select your board, you'll take the appropriate hero token to go with it. Here's a couple, hopefully a little closer that you can see them. Fantastic art in my opinion on all of this stuff.
Next up, there's some monster standees as well.
Yep, so once you get to the netherworld, these are the guys that you will face. There's 3 of them. The last standee is
Monster boss.
the monster boss. He doesn't, he's not an attack monster standee. He's a standee that is a placeholder on the table so that you remember when his turn is, which is really actually a really nice feature, or at least Jeb and I thought so.
Mm-hmm. Alright, and we should probably talk about all the tokens that are on the table. So let's start with those teeth at the bottom.
Alright, so the teeth are, once you start doing damage to a monster, they, you're able to take the teeth. That's how you get victory points. And what's really cool is that the level of the tooth is marked on the back. They're different sizes too, so you'll probably be able to figure it out. It just makes it quicker. And they stack. So that goes like that, and then, oh, there's a 4. If you can't see these, so 4 slashes, or 5 slashes, 4 slashes, 3 slashes, 2 slashes, and is there a 1?
Yeah, the ones are the tiny ones.
The very tiny one. And there, you've made a fully loaded monster tooth. Now, that won't be for every single one. There's various ways that those are set up, but that's how you stack the teeth, and it's really kind of cool.
Next to the higher number teeth are just the generic one
right, there's
point.
a whole ton of these. You know, sometimes, I can't even remember if one actually gets stacked on any of the piles or not, but the point is, there are various other ways to get teeth other than fighting the monsters, and that's how you keep track of your victory point.
Yep. Next to those are the potions that can be created in the game.
Right, so if you remember, I said on the player board there's a symbol that looks like a ring. That is the spot that lets you create different potions. And the potions that you can create are right here. There's 3 different ones. And one is healing, and one is...
The red heals all your hearts.
Right.
And the blue lets you teleport to anywhere. And the yellow will give you a plus 2 to your sword.
Yeah.
And it is... On the cheat sheet, it tells you what level your ring has to be in order to be able to create those.
And of course it's backwards compatible, so if you have a level 3 ring, then you can make anything you want.
Next up are the hearts, which
the hearts,
I'm pretty sure everybody can figure out. They represent life.
Yep, they go on to your hero board, and as you take damage, you take a heart off.
And if you noticed on these teeth, there's also a spot for the heart. There you keep track of the monster's health as well on the monster board, which we'll show you.
Right.
Next to those are the
items.
The equipment.
Equipment / items that you can earn throughout the game. So there's a 3 sword, a 2 boot, a 1 ring, a 2 ring, etc., etc.
So all of the different skills have a 1, 2, and 3 level that you can get. And then next to those are all the natural goods that you can get.
Right. So there's 3 different natural goods. They're the fruit / apple, the mushroom, and the fish.
And 2 things we didn't mention, the treasure chest token and the traps. Those are used on the Netherworld board, or Netherworld map.
Yep. So some of them are bad, some of them don't do anything, and then this one is a gold treasure chest, which can be quite handy to acquire.
And lastly, of this stuff are the mission cards and the cheat cards.
Right, we've already gave you a sneak peek at these a little bit, but everybody gets one of these so that you got a little sheet if you're not familiar with the game on what the things do. These are mission cards that you'll have throughout the game. They come in various things, all kinds of different stuff to have to do. The important part of the cards are to remember, on the top is what your reward will be if you can complete it. The bottom tells you how to complete it. So for instance, this one would be have an apple and a mushroom and be in a forest. If you do those on your turn, you can cash that in and get the reward. You get a tooth.
One of the teeth. Yep. And in the rule book, it has an explanation on all the missions, like what they mean, because there are different things. And finally, there is the Netherworld map.
And I'm going to just lay that right here over the pieces. And as you can see, here's the 3 monsters we were talking about. They all have a different layer, and the
it actually has on here next to their name what layer they spawn to.
So you know that. Wrong one. So this dragon matches this symbol, so he gets placed there when you set up this board.
The yellow goblin thing matches there, so it goes there.
And then the last one goes into wherever his dead fish are.
Yeah.
Over there. So they made that really nice on how to set that up. During setup, we'll show you the rest of it, but this is where the traps and the gold thing and all that go. But we'll go over that in a little bit. Plus, how to stack up the teeth we'll go over also.
Yep. Okay, so the first thing for setup is to place the campfire
Oh,
tile.
wait! I had it on the board already. That would be a whole step. There. You're gonna punch me now.
Mickey's so annoyed with me telling him what every step is. But that's how we do this. So the first step is to place the campfire tile in the center and put all heroes on it. So I guess you...
However many heroes are playing would be on here. And just so you folks know, this is not even close to what the setup is going to look like when we start, because everything is way too crowded. But we just want to go over the steps so you know. You'll have to arrange the components in whatever manner fits your table the best.
Yeah, you could just watch our gameplay and you'll see how we have it set up. So.
That's a good idea, Jeff. I like that.
Alright, so next you want to form the face-down stacks of the upper world tiles. And this is based off player count. So in the rulebook it tells you how many tiles to do. So pretty much Mickey has the tiles set up like that.
Okay, so actually what the rules have, or it tells you how many of which kind to take out, and then you shuffle the rest together.
Okay. So Mickey has shuffled them, and you just place them off to the side. Next is to place the Netherworld map a bit away from the campfire.
Notice it's very close to the campfire. That will not work because we are going to make a map with these tiles.
Right. You'll want to put the treasure chest on the treasure chest spot and keep the treasure die nearby.
Okay, so treasure chest is this. There's one space in here. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like little gold nuggets spilled over. That's where the treasure chest goes.
Yep. And then you put the treasure die nearby.
Oh, look, it's nearby.
Alright, after that you shuffle the 5 hazards secretly and place them on the board face down.
So, again, those are the hazards. They have the little funky...
skull and crossbones, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Not squid and bones?
Not squid and bones. The spots in the Netherworld are clearly marked on where these hazards go.
Yep. Next, you will place the monsters in their lairs.
And then, whee! You don't really have to do what I just did. But I just wanted to show that they match the symbols again.
I understand.
I know. Jeb can read my mind. Okay.
Except when I'm losing in a game. Alright, next you will stack the monster teeth accordingly. And the way this works is one monster is going to get all the teeth with 5 to 1 victory points. So that complete stack Mickey had made before. One monster is going to get that.
Okay, so if you did not watch the setup part, what happens is these are marked on the back. This has 5 slashes on it, so this is the 5th layer, 4th layer, 3rd layer, 2nd layer, 1st layer. Okay. Now you're going to make 3 piles of teeth, but they're going to be different. So there's going to be another pile that's only 4 high, and then one more pile that is 3 high.
And I believe you get to choose which
monsters
have it, so however you want to choose.
However you want to, you can do random. You can, start the game and be like, first time I play the game, it's going to be, this one's going to be 5, or the bottom one's going to be 5, but it's nice because it changes up the game because all these monsters have a different power.
So after you have done that, you will place hearts on all of the gray spots on the board. So as you can see, each of the monsters...
I put a heart on that tooth. So this monster actually starts with more health than on the board part that he has, which if you're paying attention, that means as you damage monsters and take teeth off, guess what? They get more health and they can get more difficult to kill.
Yep. You want to keep the boss monster token nearby.
And I think we just set it by the board.
Yeah. Next is to form the token pile, and that is pretty much just separating all your tokens.
Just have little
having piles formed.
If you got somebody close to the box, you can even leave them in the box. Whatever works best for you.
They can't even see any of them.
Okay, slide those over, Jeb.
So, pretty much like that.
Just
you can make
piles.
it look nice.
Yep.
But we're going to keep those off screen. And then shuffle the mission cards. So,
again, these are the mission cards. All have the same back. Besides your cheat sheets, these are the only cards in the game.
Yep.
So it makes it easy.
And at the beginning of the game, every player is going to get 3 mission cards.
Alright, so if it was just me and Jeb, 1, 2, 3, I gave myself 4, that would be cool. And then give Jeb 3, and again, etc., etc., however many players get mission cards. You do get to look at them right away, doesn't matter, and see what you got.
And then finally is to get your hero board and put your hearts on it.
Alright.
So Mickey already has his hero, and he needs to put some hearts on it. So all players are going to do that. I guess before you even begin, you should determine what heroes you have. Doesn't matter. I mean,
well, yeah,
somebody's going to have heroes.
So
but
I
anyway,
have my hearts on there, and as we said, that's the health. If you're thinking that that might be kind of a pain in the butt, it's really not. And actually, they made the hearts a nice size in terms of being able to manipulate them. They're not too small that it's irritating, and they're not so big that it's like, good gosh. It's like...
I think it's a great size that they picked.
Yeah,
so.
it's like the porridge.
Yeah,
it's not
the
too
middle one.
hot. It's not too cold. It's just right.
That was the little one, right? It doesn't. They don't care.
No, they don't, Jim.
All right.
I was making it funny, and then you really started to get serious about it.
I was trying to remember. All right. So that's everything for setup. Once all the players have their hearts and stuff, you'll determine who goes first and start gameplay. For gameplay, what's going to happen is on your turn, you're going to perform actions that are available, and then the next player goes, and this game actually plays counterclockwise for player turn. So on your turn, there are 3 available actions, but then there's also some other actions that are kind of, you can do as many as you want. We'll go over that. The main 3 are to move, to reject a mission, and to attack. So the first thing we're going to talk about is moving. So when you move, you're going to spend 1 action point and move to an adjacent spot. So I guess before we do that, we should say how you determine your action points at the beginning of your turn.
Right.
And how do you do that, Mickey?
So your action points are your boots. Okay, so whatever your boot value is how many actions you have during a turn. The person that we have out here, the hero board, has 4 points per turn to do stuff.
So if he wanted to move, he would spend 1 action point and then flip a tile.
Right. So we have 2 stacks going, so it doesn't matter what stack I pull from.
I think how we usually play is we put the guy where you intend to go, or you declare where you're going to put the tile, right?
Yeah, right. And flip it over. That would be 1 action point, and I am now on that tile.
Yep. After you move, you can continue if you want, or you can do other actions. There is 1 tile that will completely mess you up. It is the forest tile. So if you flip a forest tile when you move...
Okay, if I use the next action point, and I flip this to move here, and I move here, if it's a forest, my turn ends.
Yep. But the one good thing about that is you get to roll a treasure die.
And it's important to note that the treasure die is only rolled when the forest is flipped.
Yep.
It's not every time you go into a forest after it's already revealed. I would have just gained myself a tooth victory point. This game is based on victory points.
Yep. And on the die there is 1 tooth, two teeth, a ring, a boot, and I think a sword. Yeah.
Sword. Right.
So that's the kind of stuff you can get from there. And the only other thing about tiles in the upper world is that multiple heroes can occupy them. So you can have 2 heroes on the same tile if you want.
Now hopefully that you understand how movement works and what the forest does, there are a few other tiles that will be turned over during the game that you need to understand how they work. So there are, I'm going to move this hero off right now, and I'm going to move this dice over so you can see, hopefully. Alright, and I'm just going to put them around the board. Alright, these 3 spaces, the fish pond, the apple trees, and the mushroom garden, are the natural resources spaces of the game. Whenever you pass through / land on one of these spaces, you can take as many of those resources as you want. Yes, you heard that correctly. It's not an action. It's not anything. If I'm walking around the board to get somewhere and I go across this fish pond, I can take as many fish as I want. Limited only to, can I put it in my backpack or my rucksack, whatever they call it in this game. So if I wanted to, I need fish for whatever reason, maybe it's one of my missions, I could take them all. And if I was in the middle of the movement, I could still continue around the board. And that goes the same for the mushrooms. If I wanted to take 2 mushrooms, I could take 2 mushrooms. If I wanted to take 1 mushroom, I could take 1 mushroom. And Jeff can, and there's what the apples and that's what the mushrooms look like. Okay? So that's how the resources work on the board. It may seem a little bit strange because it's probably counter to any other game you've ever played where it's like I can literally just go across a tile, no action, no nothing, and just take stuff. Trust us, it works in this game. It actually makes a lot of sense.
So Mickey, if you walked on the fish pond and you took 3 fish and filled your rucksack with them, then you moved on to the mushroom patch and you wanted 1 mushroom, could you discard a fish
yes.
to put a mushroom?
You can get rid of stuff whenever you want.
Yep.
So it doesn't, if you thought wrong in your head and then you were like, oh, wait a second, I needed that, you can mix the stuff up. So okay. You don't have to worry about, oh, I took too many or whatever you might think. So we're going to move the natural resources now and show you the other important spots that you will encounter. And remember, I'm just putting these around so that you can see them, what they do. Alright, so the first, and these are all on cheat sheet. The first one is that I'm going to show you is the one that looks like the big top circus tent. It's called the Trade Merchant. So at the Trade Merchant, you can trade different equipment of the same value. So basically, if I have 2 swords and I have no boot, then I can trade like I have a number 2 sword, and I have another,
another sword?
Yeah. Alright, and say that I have a number 2 in there.
So he's got a 2 sword
right.
Equipped to his skill slot, and then he's got a 2 sword in my backpack, which is completely useless to him.
Right. Well, not completely. But I have no extra movement right now.
Right.
Say I wanted to get more movement or action points. Would you like to however you want to refer to that? If I'm on this spot, I can take the number 2 and change it for the 2 value boot, and then I can immediately equip it there. Now I have 6 action / move points a turn.
So it's pretty much
it's like
same number, you just switch whatever item it is.
It's a 1-for-1 trade, and you can use it immediately The only other important thing to realize is that you can only do one trade action per turn. So if you had two things you wanted to swap in your backpack, you have to wait for another turn to do it. Okay? So that is the trade merchant. Let's move over to this this one here, which is the smith. Okay? So the smith, you can discard two equipment of the same type, and it doesn't matter the value in this case. So I have two swords, the same type, and you'll get an improved version of the respective equipment. The value of the new equipment can't exceed the sum of the two that you traded in. So if I trade in a 1 sword and a 1 sword, I get a 2 sword. Right? Oh, I already have a 2 sword. So let's still say I had a 1 sword on that, right? I can take the one that's equipped off. I can take this one that I acquired, and I can have the smith build me a 3.
Because 1 plus 2 is
3. If I had acquired 2 2s, I can trade both those 2s in and get a 3, because it doesn't go any higher than that. But so just so you know, the math doesn't have to be exactly right. Okay? That works on all the equipment, so you could do it with the boot, you can do it with the sword, and you can do it with the ring slash bracelet. I forget what it is. I think it's a bracelet, actually, not a ring.
And the key is that the equipment has to be the same type. You can't put a boot with a sword to get a higher level sword.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
The equipment has to match. That space, you're allowed to do multiple times a turn. So the trade, you can only do it once. The upgrade, you can, if you have the ability or the equipment to do it and you want to, you can. We'll go over to this guy. That is the laboratory. In the laboratory, you have to end your turn on the laboratory. So it's not a path-through one. These are path-through ones, and you could keep going after. You have to end there, and you can improve the value of any equipment by 1. Alright, so I have a 2 boot. I could trade it in at the laboratory at the end of my turn, and I could boost it 1. The rules do not state on this one if you can do that one multiple times or not. So, I think Jeb and I played that we were only doing one thing. I don't remember either of us doing multiple.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got to do multiple.
Yep. So, whether or not there's an answer to that, I'm not really sure at the moment. That's how that spot works. Right? The last spot are the portals to the, what is it?
Netherworld.
Netherworlds. Alright? So, there are 5 of these, numbered 1 through 5, and they link to the corresponding spot in the Netherworld. So, as a movement, once you're there, you can move in.
Yeah, so if you spent 1 action point on this one, you would go over to the one over here. So that costs 1 movement, or 1 action.
And there are, again, numbered 1 through 5. So wherever you go in, you don't get to pick your number. You go to that specific spot. So until all the tiles are out, you might be limited to where you can enter the Netherworld. That covers all the different tiles that you will run into in the game and how they work. And hopefully that was relatively clear. Mm-hmm. I'll say it one more time just because I think Jeb and I kept looking in the rule book to see if the multiple acquiring at the spot was right until we actually played it and saw that it made total sense. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, for the natural goods.
For the natural goods.
Alright, so that all fell under the move action. Next up is reject a mission. Okay. So you can spend 1 action point to discard a mission card in your hand, and then you draw 1.
Right. So let's say I have this hand. I don't like I know that no time soon am I ever going to be able to do this right now. I can spend an action, I can discard that, and I can put a new one in my hand. And hopefully I get something that I can either use against Jeb or helps me out. Because there are steel cards in missions.
And then there is one quick rule about the mission cards in your hand. Whenever you finish, you can finish as many as you want on your turn, but at the end of your turn you draw back up to 3.
So if I finished all 3, guess what? I would draw 3 at the end of my turn.
Right. Here are some actions that you can do during your turn that do not cost action points. So one of them is to recover, and when you do that you discard a natural good from your bag and you recover 1 hit point. So that one's pretty simple. You can do that as many times as you want. The next one is to brew potions. So you can use natural goods in your bag to make potions. And it depends on what ring level you have. And you can do that as many times as you can, but that's usually limited by how many resources you have on you. Another thing you can do is use a potion. So the 3 different potions that there are. The red one, when you use it, you regain all of your hit points and then you discard it. So there's actually 1 spot on your player board for the potion. Right. I think one of the people might have 2. I don't know. But in this case, if he wanted to use the red one, he would discard it to get all of his hearts back.
Yep.
The yellow one, if he had that, he would not discard it. He would just flip it over. And it has a reminder
that
says,
you now have a +2.
Yep.
And notice that it's in the same line as your sword, so hopefully you don't forget about it.
And this is, you get +2 sword while you're in the netherworld. So if you're ever in the upper world, that's going to go away.
Right. So you're not going to trigger this usually in the upper world.
Right. Because you cannot attack in the upper world. And then the last potion is the blue one. And this lets you move to anywhere in the upper world or the netherworld.
Right. You can literally go to any spot you want.
And there is one thing different about this. Instead of discarding, I think you flip it over and you leave it on there until the end of your turn. So you're not able to do multiple teleports on a turn. And then the last thing we need to talk about is entering the netherworld. And that'll lead to the other action you can do.
Again, if I'm on a portal, I can use an action point to end up in the number 1 over here.
And the other way to enter is with the blue potion.
Right.
So. Alright, when you enter the netherworld, you are going to put the boss monster standee between you and the next player.
The second that somebody goes in the netherworld, this token comes out. And it goes between me and the next player. Now, in this case, it would be just me and Jeb. But it's important to realize that it actually makes a difference because of the way you're circling around the board. So, I think, does it say to, what is it, how is it worded again?
It goes between you and the next player. And we
okay,
go
so it's counterclockwise. So it's a 2-player game. Jeb's standing on this side over here, and I'm over here, in case you can see it. So the clock is going like this. Okay? That's counterclockwise, right? Alright.
So if Mickey was the one who entered.
So if I'm the one that entered, and it's counterclockwise, we go this side because it's counterclockwise, alright? It's important because if it was Jeb, it would go over here, and it actually makes a difference because of the turn order. This is when it goes off. So it's not it's Jeb to me when the monster attacks, not Mickey to Jeb. So this is really, even though it looks like it's not in the center and going off every time it goes back and forth between me and Jeb. It only goes off on the turn from me to Jeb. I hope that made sense. It's a little easier to see in multiple players because it's easy, but it is important in a two-player game that you realize kind of keep it off to one side or the other and paying attention to keep that reversed clock in your mind so that he goes off at the appropriate time.
And then another thing is that when somebody enters and you place the boss monster token, it stays there while there is somebody in the netherworld. So it will not move even if more people go in or if some people leave.
Right.
As
so
long as
somebody's in there, it is staying there the whole time. So pretend what happens is you go down in the dungeon, you've woken up the monsters. So they're going to stay awake until every single hero is out of the Netherland. So if you think of it like that, it makes sense. So it's not going to go away just because I was the one that triggered it, and if I take off, you know, they're all like, oh, okay, we're not going to do anything anymore. They're not that stupid of monsters.
And a rule for the Netherworld is on the spaces, monsters and heroes block each other. So in the upper world, there could be multiple heroes on a tile. In the Netherworld, you can only have one figure on each space.
Important.
Yes. And then also in the Netherworld, when you step on the treasure or the trap tokens, then you flip them and do whatever it says on the bottom. So if it's a trap and you flip over the trap, like the actual trap thing, I believe your hero takes 1 hit point of damage. And I think their turn ends, right?
Yes. If you walk across one of the hazards and it's a trap, you immediately lose a damage and your turn ends.
And after you step on any of those tiles, you'll resolve them and then take them off the board.
Right.
And I believe, what is the treasure when you
so
flip it?
If you are the one that lands on, and it has to be on, the treasure, and there's a reminder on the back, you get to roll the treasure die 3 times and take whatever you get.
Next up are the monsters. Some information about them. The monsters get stronger as the game goes on, which Mickey had said before. When a monster is defeated, which means all the hearts are off of it, you are going to remove the figure from the board, and then whoever defeated it collects the topmost monster tooth, and at the point where all the monster teeth are gone, like you take the last one, then that monster is out of the game for good.
Right. So that means, so every time you defeat a monster, you take it off the board, put him in his lair, well, not in his lair, but just put him on his spot over here. You'll get the top tooth, fine. If there are still people in the underworld, everything just stays the same. Those two are still out there. Okay, so you're still able to battle them. Just so you're aware, what Jeb meant is all of these have to be gone. He's not in the game right now, so you can't keep battling him. You're going to have to wait for that to refresh, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But just so you know, it's impossible to go through an entire row of teeth while you're down there one time. You can't do it, which is very good for the game.
Next is something that I completely skipped over, attacking. So attacking.
I thought you were getting to that.
Okay. I meant to do it before, but I skipped it. Attacking can only be done in the Netherworld, and it is the last action that you have to actually spend an action point to do. What happens is when you are adjacent to a monster or a hero, if you're attacking a hero, you spend 1 action point, then the people involved will roll a die. If
I am standing by this monster, who is this guy, I look at what I have for a sword. I have 1 die, and it gives me, I have an automatic +1, then my sword gives me a 3. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll my die. Whatever the result is, I will add 4. Oh, I'm really good at this game. So I get 1, plus the 1, plus the 3. So I have a 5. The monster, we look at his sword. He has a 1, plus a 1.
And the other players will control the monster.
Right.
So I got a 2 plus a 1 is a 3.
So I won the battle.
So the way battles resolve is whoever has the highest value is the winner. And the winner or the loser takes 1 hit point of damage.
Right, so the monster gets rid of a heart.
In the case that it is a tie, then the attacker wins. So unlike most games where defender wins, or defender breaks ties, this is attacker breaks ties.
Remember, that was an action point, so if I still had action points, I could battle again, do the same exact thing. Jeb would roll for the monster. If I was able to hit him one more time, now he has no hearts, he's removed, I get a tooth.
And look at that. There's a +1 on that tooth.
Right, so
next
now
time
his
around,
rolls
he's
are
stronger.
adding a 2 to whatever he rolls.
Yep. And then in the case of heroes fighting each other, the loser takes the hit point of damage.
So that's what happens when... that's how an attack works. And we've gone over twice now, I think, what happens when you beat a monster, and meaning if he loses all his hearts. So, what happens if you get defeated and you lose all your hearts? Well, there are two different situations. If you lose your last heart due to a monster
Or a trap.
Yep. You get rid of all equipment, natural goods, and potions on your hero board and place them back into the common supply.
Yep, so you lose all the tokens on your hero board.
If you lose to another hero...
If you die to another.
I mean, yes.
Yep.
If you die, you lose your last heart. That's what I
Yep.
was doing. Okay. To another hero, you exchange all monster teeth with the victor, but only if he has fewer victory points than you. So basically, if that sentence didn't make any sense, whoever has the most teeth, it's going to stay, or it will, if you have fewer, you'll get all of them. Mm-hmm. You give the fewer to the other person.
So, for example, Mickey has 7, I have 5. If I kill Mickey, then I get 7 and he takes my 5.
Right.
But if Mickey kills me, he doesn't, nobody switches. He just stays with 7 and I stay with 5.
Yeah, and there's no losing of any equipment, so usually it's more of a mechanic to, switch who's in the lead more than anything else.
Yeah.
But in any event, if you die, that's the end of your turn, and you put your hero back into the upper world on the portal with the lowest number. So if they're not all out yet, that's when you look for the lowest number. If your entire upper world is revealed, then obviously you go to number 1, and you get to put 1 health back on your board.
We need to go over the monster's turn. So the monsters themselves have a turn, and that's represented by the monster boss token.
So when it gets to his turn,
the upper world players are in command of the monsters. So whoever's left in the upper world can decide, and we'll explain that. All the monsters on the monster's turn share a total of 4 action points, and they can be split amongst the monsters, or one of them can use all 4. It's however the players decide. The monsters can block portals by standing on them. They're not allowed to leave the netherworld. They don't trigger traps when they walk on them, and they're not allowed to stand on the treasure token. If the players in the upper world cannot agree on what actions to do, they roll a die.
And whoever gets the highest gets to control the monster.
Yep.
That's probably not going to... Well, I mean, if everybody's down there, yeah, you're probably going to be rolling to see who controls it. But the important things to remember are, it's 4 hit points shared among the monsters.
4 action points.
Action points. What did I say?
Hit points.
Hit points. That's dumb. So action/movement points. So, like, this guy can move 1, 2, and attack. That would be dumb, because that would be the long way. But you get my point. Point is that it's 4 shared, and if you can get right close to him, then you can get multiple attacks off.
And then also, if all the heroes are in the netherworld, then the die is rolled between the people who aren't involved in the battle, and they control the monsters for that turn. I think the only thing left to talk about is what happens when everybody leaves the netherworld, Mickey.
Okay, so if we had a ferocious battle going on, blah, 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 and let's say this guy really was still dead. That's a good example. Alright?
Let's say the top guy lost 2 hearts.
Let's say this guy lost 2 hearts. And let's say that I jumped out without getting anything. Put myself on 1 over there. Alright, it's cleared. Or, it's not cleared.
Yeah.
Everybody's out. Oh, wait, let's say these were picked up.
So once everybody leaves, or well, once nobody's in the netherworld, then it causes a rebuild to happen. And what happens with rebuilding the netherworld is first you will put the treasure chest token back if it's not there.
Right. So if this was gone, it comes back in.
Then you will shuffle all the traps and place them back.
Right. So those, notice I took the ones that were still sitting there because by just knowing that information, you've eliminated the, you know, the probability of what stuff is left because you know what came off the board. These will be redistributed in all the spots.
Next is to place all the monsters in their lairs.
So this guy would come back in on his lair.
The defeated monsters gain all their HP back. So only if they're dead, which that guy would have lost his tooth if he died.
Right. So say his tooth was gone, he gets all his HP back. Notice that the one that did not die keeps the same.
Yeah, you will not refill his heart.
They don't regain health unless they had actually been defeated.
And then the last thing is your boss monster token is now removed from the board,
right.
or it's no longer that invisible
right.
player.
It could end up in a different spot going around the table at this point.
Yep. And I believe that is everything for the game. The way to win the game, or I guess the game ends when a player gets X number of monster teeth, and that depends on how many players.
Right.
And the rulebook has it set up to tell you. And while Mickey's checking that, the biggest thing is that victory points stay visible, so you can't hide them.
You can't hide them. Everybody needs to know what you have. And so for a 5-player game, it's 11 victory points. For a 4-player game, it's 13 victory points. For a 3-player game, it's 16. And for 2 players, it's 20. And what that means is you have to have 20, and the little slashes are the number of victory points on the teeth. And the big ones have multiple, but you have to have whatever the amount that you need is, you have to have those, and you have to make it back to camp. Until you get back to camp, you haven't won.
So we are going to have a 3-player game of Heldentaufe. I think Haley's joining us, right?
Yes, Haley will be joining us, and if we weren't very clear on anything, I think if you even watched like 10 minutes of the game,
yeah,
you'd be good to go. Maybe watch 10 minutes a game. If you don't like watching us play the whole thing, watch 10 minutes, see how it works. Fast forward until you see us in the Netherlands, watch a couple turns of that, you'll be good to go.